Hey everybody, Dr. G here. I'm a clinical and forensic psychologist as well as a body language expert, and today we're going to be analyzing the behavior and body language of former President Bill Clinton. Before we get started with this, couple of quick things. One, I wanted to make sure you know this is not a psychological evaluation of any kind. These are just my opinions. In addition to that, I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, let's go. What we're going to be analyzing today is former President Bill Clinton's deposition to the House Oversight Committee. What we're specifically going to be looking at is Clinton talking about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We could probably do a follow-up video talking about the Clinton Foundation and other aspects of this, but for today, for the sake of time, we're really just covering him and his relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. All right, let's just jump right in.
Conducted by the House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform under the authority granted to it pursuant to House Rule 10. Accordingly, House Rule...
Now, the first thing I want you to pay attention to is his posture already. You see the chin down, eyes up like this. This is a defensive posture. Our neck is very vulnerable, so when we keep our chin down, that tends to be a defensive posture. So he's starting this out in a defensive position.
Directing the chairman to authorize and issue a subpoena to you for a deposition. On August 5th, 2025, Chairman...
As you can see, his chin continues to go lower and lower. He's in a very defensive position as they discuss the steps they took in order to get this deposition. Now, what we're going to be doing is jumping around because this is 4.5 hours long. I assume you don't want me to analyze all 4.5 hours, so I'm just going to be showing you the highlights. But now we're going to go ahead and jump to some other sections.
Well, I will try in this testimony, and I will point it out when I'm aware there's a picture or something that predates it. There's a picture that shows him shaking hands in the...
Now, we're already seeing how Bill Clinton can be persuasive. You see how he's got a little bit of a smile as he speaks. He's open as he speaks. He looks calm right now. So you have to look very, very carefully if we're going to see whether or not he's being deceptive. But this type of body language immediately makes people feel warm to him. It makes people want to trust what he's saying. So you really have to look at this with a very close eye to see whether or not there's deception.
White House Historical Association reception, that was in 1993, but I'm not aware of that. I first remember meeting him when I got on his airplane to take the first trip with my foundation in, I think, 2002, whenever it was. But
And
now, this is interesting. As he's speaking, you're seeing a lot of swallows, a lot of hard swallows, which means that he actually is feeling stress. He also started to say more and cut himself off.
in, I think, 2002, whenever it was. But
You heard him say, but, as though he was going to continue speaking, cut himself off right there and stopped talking because there must have been something he didn't want to say.
two, whenever it was. But
And you can tell by the way he's looking right now, that's a way of saying, I'm done speaking, it's your turn.
mentioned that your first memory of interacting with Mr. Epstein was on your first trip. Which trip specifically?
Now, this right here is a look of surprise. For whatever reason, this question surprises him. Now, whether or not that's because his interactions with Epstein predate the first trip, there's something about this that he didn't anticipate, even though this seems like it would have been an obvious question. But this looks like a very genuine reaction of surprise right here.
Which trip specifically?
I'm not sure which one it was. Which one was the first? I took all or parts of 4 or 5 trips to Asia and Africa and one to Northern Europe on Mr. Epstein's airplane.
What you're noticing, now he has his hand on his chin, acting like he's thinking. He's not making very good eye contact. Now, eye contact for most people, if I didn't know them well, I would say eye contact is variable. Some people feel very uncomfortable with eye contact. Former President Bill Clinton does not feel uncomfortable at all with eye contact. He's actually got very direct, very clear eye contact. But what you're seeing here is that when he's providing a lot of these responses, he's continuing to look down. Right now, we're seeing him obscure his face a little bit. There's a lot of discomfort here as he's talking about this.
And once when I was in Florida, I was offered a ride back to New York, but I wasn't there it was just coincidental that he was there. And I think that was fairly early in the process, but I don't remember exactly. I just know that I did. I took one flight back from Florida to New York. And
So if you're wondering why he would need to think so hard about this, is that if he was in fact on more flights than he claimed, he's going to have to be very careful and very precise that he responds to which flights he was on. Now, it seems like it'd be obvious. Well, of course, he's going to remember which ones he said he was on versus which ones people don't know about, but that can get confusing in a situation like this. So when I see his hesitancy, to me, that says that he's trying to be selective about what he says.
all are part of several other, I think 4 or 5 trips.
So you may also be noticing that right now he's speaking with one hand. Now, typically he's someone who's emphatic, who uses both hands, who's very open. So he's someone that's going to want you to listen to what he's saying. You're not seeing so much of that right now. One arm, one hand tends to be less committed than both, particularly for somebody who typically speaks with both hands.
Africa, Asia, and one to Northern Europe.
Testimony today that you have no independent recollection whatsoever of the circumstances.
Now, you may be noticing the shaking. He's been doing this throughout. I do think this is more age-related. I don't think that it's because he's so nervous right now that he can't not shake.
Briefly describe the nature and extent of your relationship with Mr. Epstein.
Well, sometime after I left the White House, either in late 2001 or early-ish in 2002.
He looks so much more uncomfortable than I've ever actually seen him look. He's someone that seems almost impervious to stress when he's out in public, when he's giving speeches, when he speaks in front of Congress, or used to. So to see him like this, it's very interesting. He very much appears more defensive than I've ever seen him look before.
I received a call from Larry Summers, who had been on my economic team and was later Secretary of Treasury, and was then president of Harvard. And
All right, immediately after talking about Larry Summers, you're seeing him close up. Now, when people are standing and they have this position, sometimes it's for comfort. They've been standing for a while. It's a more comfortable way to stand. Right now, this is clearly closing up. This is an actual defensive posture.
Larry Summers, who had been on my economic team and was later Secretary of Treasury, and was then president of Harvard. And he said that
As AI becomes more and more a part of our daily lives, privacy is going to become more and more of an issue. That's why today's video is sponsored by Venice AI. The CEO of OpenAI, Sam Altman, has said that ChatGPT will get to know you over the course of your life. When you consider that ChatGPT also has a former director of the NSA on their board, it all starts to get a little bit more concerning. Fortunately, there's a solution, and it's called Venice AI. Venice AI lets you use AI without handing over your sensitive information. Their founder, Eric Voorhees, is a leading crypto entrepreneur known for advocating for individual financial control and user privacy. Venice utilizes leading open source AI models to deliver text, code, and image generation right to your web browser or via their app. And the best part, they don't spy on you or censor the AI. The conversation history is stored only on your device or browser. With Venice Pro, you unlock the full platform, including PDF uploads, unhindered image generation, and the ability to customize how Venice interacts with you. I've been using Venice AI, and it's a game changer. I can switch between different models, generate images that other platforms wouldn't, and even create custom AI characters to chat with. If you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to a corporation or the government, you can get 20% off of a pro plan using my link, venice.ai/Dr. G. Visit Venice.ai today and start your journey with the future of AI. Remember, your data, your rules.
Mr. President, when did your relationship with Mr. Epstein end?
when did it end? Well, I believe I took my last flight in 2003.
Now, I want you to pay close attention to his hands and the way that he moves his head right here.
Flight in 2003.
Now, you can see he's fidgeting with his fingers, another atypical behavior for Bill Clinton. He's also continuing to lower his chin. And he's also phrasing this in a very interesting way. I believe my last flight with him was 2003. That's not what he asked. He asked when the last time he interacted with Epstein was. So he's already framing this in a way that is not answering the question directly. And he's closing his fingers off right there. This is a more defensive posture. He's looking down. He's got his hands closed. We're continuing to get a lot of defensiveness from Bill Clinton.
Now, later I became aware of some involvement he had in the first Clinton Global Initiative, but it was much later.
Why did your
You see, he never answered the question directly there. He didn't say when the actual last time they interacted was. He just said when the last flight was supposed to be. So it's a very, very careful way of phrasing this. And he's somebody that is extremely careful with language. If you recall, if you're someone who lived through Clinton's administrations, he talked about what the definition of the word is. So he's someone that's very careful with his language.
When did you first learn of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes?
I think in 2008 when he was prosecuted. There's nothing that I saw when I was around him.
Now, there's so little emphasis to this when he's saying there's nothing that I saw that was around him. His hand is moving a little bit. But as I've said before, he's someone that tends to have big body language. And we see that at times when he's feeling really emphatic about something. He shows you right now he's looking down. He's got his chin tucked in as he had before. He's moving as little as possible. There's a lot of signs of deception right here.
There's nothing that I saw when I was around him that made me realize he was trafficking women. And I never
trailed off again. And I never stopped talking right there. This is the second time he's had to do this, where he's about to say something else and has to cut himself off.
When I was around him, it made me realize he was trafficking women. And I never.
You'll also notice he uses the word women instead of girls. I think that's very interesting.
Can you briefly, for the record, describe the nature and extent of your relationship with Miss Maxwell?
Yes, it was. It lasted longer and was more extensive than my relationship with Mr. Epstein because.
Now, this is a very interesting set of body language right here.
Can you briefly, for the record, describe the nature and extent of your relationship with Miss Maxwell?
Yes.
So you're seeing a lot of self-soothing behaviors, touching his nose, touching his chin, and now you're going to see him close his arms off. So this is a very, once again, a very defensive way to respond.
It was. It lasted longer and was more extensive.
So he's feeling the need to protect himself right now. So even though he is saying it was a deeper relationship than what I had with Jeffrey Epstein, he is still closed up. So there are things about this that seem to bother him.
Than my relationship with.
Right now, there's a real look of shock on his face. What I am curious about is if that reaction was him processing and thinking about what it is that Hillary had said the day before, wondering if I just said something that conflicted with what she said, because there truly was a look of shock right here. So there's some sort of realization he's coming to. I haven't watched Hillary's deposition yet. I plan to watch that soon. I'm going to do another video on that. But I'm just wondering what he's processing here that gave him pause.
Than my relationship with Mr. Epstein because.
And when did your relationship with Miss Maxwell end?
I don't think I've seen her in a decade. I don't know. It's been a long time. I don't know exactly when.
So I don't think I've seen her in a decade. That would put his relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell up to 2016. That's pretty late.
I think I've seen her in a decade. I don't know. It's been a long time. I don't know exactly when.
And your communications with Mr. Epstein, did you ever have any communications that were not related to the foundation?
I don't believe we ever talked about anything but the work we were doing. I mean, maybe small talk. I can't imagine. I don't remember the conversations.
And for the record, before we move on, did you?
There's a remarkable lack of confidence in many of Bill Clinton's responses. Now, I've skipped over a lot because, like I said, this is just so long, but we are seeing very similar body language question to question. He's closed off. He's leaning back. When we lean back, it gains us distance from the person we're talking to. So he continues to be disengaged in many of these important questions.
I don't believe we ever talked about anything but the work we were doing. I mean, maybe small talk. I can't imagine. I don't remember the conversations.
And for the record, before we move on, did you ever have any communications with Mr. Epstein that related to young women or girls?
No.
Excuse me. Do you have your
So some discomfort after you responded to this. Watch this right here.
To young women or girls?
No.
Well, first look at this facial expression right here. This is a look of disapproval.
excuse
But as you're seeing, he starts touching his face afterwards, trying to calm himself down. This is an anxiety-provoking response.
me? Do you have your fantastic? Thank you very much.
See the pinching of the chin, pinching of he does have a lot of nerves right now. I have never seen Bill Clinton with this many nerves about anything. Also see after that question, he looked down at his watch. He wants to know when this is going to be over. Obviously, there's still a long way to go, but this is showing all the signs that he's very uncomfortable and wants to leave this situation. And then reaffirms how closed off he is. Looked at his watch, closes his arms tighter. He really just wants to get away from all of this.
Am I good? Okay, so have you flown on a plane with her
Several times.
several times?
Can you say, have you flown on a plane? Any plane?
The Lolita Express?
What is that when you say that?
Have you flown on the Lolita Express
I don't know
with
what
Jeffrey?
that-
Objection.
I don't know what that is.
Have you flown on Jeffrey Epstein's plane with Huma Abedin?
Ask.
So as she was referring to Epstein's plane as the Lolita Express, and he says, I don't know what that is implausible. Whether or not that's what he called it, pretty much everybody knows that that's what Jeffrey Epstein's plane was referred to as. So it seems extremely implausible that he wouldn't know that. You can also see he's squinting his eyes. That's when we hear things we don't like. He doesn't like being confronted in this way.
Express
don't know
with
what
Jeffrey.
Objection.
I don't know what that is.
Have you flown on Jeffrey Epstein's plane? Did you ever visit Epstein's Little St. James Island?
No.
We have Virginia Guffrey, who is testified.
Now, you notice one thing that was very different about how he responded to that question. He said no, and he did not move 1 inch. He didn't look away. He didn't move his eyes. And we do that when we're trying to hide. His natural body movements went away. He was already closed up. He responded, and he didn't move. So to me, that suggests, knowing the way that Bill Clinton's baseline is, to me, that suggests deception.
I'm not sure.
Okay. Did you ever visit Epstein's Little St. James Island?
No.
We have Virginia Guffrey, who has testified seeing you on the island with 2 young girls. Did this occur at all? Okay.
Now, you'll notice a slight smile when that was said. Watch this right here.
Island with 2 young girls. Did this occur?
Now, he does this because when he's going to deny something, he likes to smile when he does it. So his immediate reaction when being asked whether or not he was seen there, you're immediately seeing a smile that he chose not to follow.
Virginia Guffrey, who has testified seeing you on the island with 2 young girls. Did this occur at all? Okay. Why do you think she would have made that?
And then you saw some very fast blinking afterwards. So we tend to do that when we are stressed. So responding to this, saying something that isn't true, the fear of not being believed, that can make us blink more.
Did this occur at all? Okay. Why do you think she would have made that claim?
Objection. Speculation.
Moving on to Virginia Roberts Giuffre. Are you familiar with her? Mm-hmm. As has already been established, she has stated in numerous sworn statements, including a sworn deposition in the Maxwell trial, that she saw you on the island with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact, this morning, her family shared her diary.
I want you to pay close attention to what Clinton's doing with his hands right here.
Position in the Maxwell trial, that she saw you on the island with Jeffrey Epstein. And in fact,
So they're talking about trials, they're talking about sworn statements. You're seeing him stroke his lips. This is such a strong self-soothing behavior. And the reason you're seeing more of this now is because the longer something like this goes on, because this is several hours into it, the more it wears you down. You start to get more anxious. You start to have to soothe yourself more. So as he's being asked questions, even though he was asked similar questions earlier, it's becoming more distressing, it seems.
in fact, this morning, her family shared her diary with me. And in it is a quote wherein she writes, quote, Bill Clinton.
And it's almost like he catches himself doing this, so he shifted his hand over. But he is trying to self-soothe in a way that he wasn't earlier.
A quote wherein she writes, quote, Bill Clinton met 2 times island with 2 girls, CTGM and JE. What is your reaction to that?
It's not true.
Now, I want you to pay close attention to his shoulder right here. Watch this.
Your reaction to that?
It's not true.
You're seeing one shoulder go up. It's not true. Now, typically, if we really don't know something or if we're really feeling strongly, we do both shoulders because that's a levitating behavior. We're very vulnerable when we lift both shoulders up. One shoulder is non-committed, and it is also often a sign of deception.
And JE. What is your reaction to that?
It's not true.
Do you have any dates associated with that? Were there dates on the diary? With
I
respect
don't have that information, but we'll be happy to share it with you.
to- Terrific, because I think there are also records that would reflect where else he would have been. So thanks.
Did she say that in her book?
Now, one of the things that's interesting about Clinton is there's times where there's real hostility under what he's saying, but he'll cover it with a smile. He does this brilliantly. But right here, when he said, did she put this in her book? Now you're seeing real anger under the surface.
Would have been. So thanks.
Did she say that in her book?
This is from her personal diary that her family shared with us.
But the book came out more recently. Did she say that in the book?
I'm just reading you the entry
See, he's got his eyebrows up. He wants you to focus on his face. Whatever it is, the point he's making about the book, he thinks is very important.
from her diary that her family shared with me.
I think she ultimately reached a different conclusion, although I had no contact with her.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure that it's on the record that that is Virginia Giuffre's statement. Did you ever fly in a helicopter with
Ghislaine.
Maxwell?
Ever, anywhere? I have no idea.
Now, that's a very interesting response. Typically, if you're going to fly with somebody who is not a typical pilot, she had a pilot's license, but she's not someone who is typically a pilot. The fact he doesn't remember whether or not he flew with her in a helicopter, that is very telling.
Ever, anywhere? I have no idea.
Okay, well, at least one of the survivors claims that you flew in a helicopter.
Now you're seeing, I know I've mentioned it a bunch here, but Clinton is doing it so much, the chin is getting really deep now. The defensiveness is very, very strong. This line of questioning seems to bother him more than many of the other questions that have been asked.
At least one of the survivors claims that you flew in a helicopter with Ghislaine Maxwell to the island.
Did you ever?
Then I did not do that. I've never been to that island.
All right, let's go and wrap things up here. Hopefully this is helping you better understand some of Clinton's behavior and his body language. Based on what we saw today, it looks like there was definite defensiveness. There also appeared to be some deception. I remain unconvinced by his denials about the Virginia Giuffre situation. The idea that he's never been to Little St. James Island seems unlikely based on his behavior and his body language. Additionally, there seems to be more to his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein than what he said. If there's anything else you want me to analyze, whether it's the relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, whether it's his statements about President Trump, I can do a follow-up video about those as well. But really, I'm trying to keep this timely because it would just be so long. If you have any other thoughts about this or if there's anything else you want me to analyze, please let me know in the comments below. Last thing before we get finished up is I do want to remind you to like and subscribe if you want to see more content just like this. All right, thanks for watching.